Did you know that an oyster can change its gender? Hello, YouTube. How are you? Myself, I'm doing pretty good, actually. Back for another week, once again. And this week, I want to talk about justice. Why, you may ask? Well, let me tell you. So, I love movies. I actually had to set a limit on myself where I only watch movies on the weekends because I will literally, when I'm bored, just sit down and watch a movie and then feel like I've wasted a couple of hours of when I should have been doing work on, like, editing a video or something. It's almost like an addiction. I just love watching movies. Not because of, like, action scenes or anything. I'm not into, like, the whole popular movies kind of thing, whatever's latest in Hollywood. Even though sometimes there are some really good movies that come out of Hollywood. Sometimes. I like watching movies that are about real issues and have real truths and real messages and stuff behind them. And yes, I know movies that are mainstream can have real messages and real truths in them, but to a certain point they just start repeating themselves and they all say the same sort of thing and same sort of general, sort of bland, surface level moral stuff. Stuff that really doesn't interest me after I've seen it so many times. I want people to ask real questions so that we can really think when we're watching movies instead of just consuming all this content. Basically, I treat watching movies like reading books. I don't see it as a form of entertainment, I see it as a very special art form. One which I sometimes like to participate in myself. And I try to treat it as a very special art form. Anyway, that's almost a complete digression from what the topic is. Random, I like turtles. Face. I like turtles. So the past couple movies I've watched have had a theme to them. They've all got some really serious social justice issues. The first one that sort of started this justice train of thought was a movie called This Is England. It is a movie about a boy who joins up with some skinheads in the 1980s and has a sort of growing experience through that. Like every movie that's worth watching, in my opinion, there are all sorts of themes and messages you could get out of this movie. But one of the main ones that really stuck with me was in this scene when one of the skinheads literally just beats the snot out of a black guy. The skinhead is beating the snot out of him because he is black. That's why he's beating him. And they never really tell you whether or not he kills the guy, but that's sort of the assumption. And all the while this is happening, this scene is so intense and so brutal that every part of me wants to reach into the screen and pull that skinhead out and beat the snot out of him. Next movie that carried along this justice train of thought was a movie called Music Within. It's about the guy who instituted the American Disabilities Act. And he befriends all kinds of people with disabilities, and it just shows people being so disrespectful and irreverent and disgusting towards people with disabilities. And that makes me extremely angry. Again, I had this feeling of just wanting to beat the snot out of people. And then finally I watched a movie called City of Joy, about an American doctor who goes to India and starts working without really meaning to at a free clinic in this slum in India. And the slum is a slum because there is a sort of godfather type figure who is charging everyone ridiculous amounts of rent, but what he calls keeping them under control. And he is basically just oppressing them and living off of all their money for his own well-being in this mansion in the middle of the slum. This makes me extremely angry. I want to see justice done. But when your anger subsides, you really have to question if beating the pulp out of people is the proper justice for people who beat the pulp out of people. Is abusing someone proper justice for abuse? If someone has used their hands to disfigure someone's face, is it justice for me to disfigure that person's face? And I know this is a classic question, the whole kind of death penalty thing, but seriously, I think this is a question that at this point in life we've just kind of passed it off as cliche and never really considered seriously enough. Would it really be justice to give someone the exact same treatment they gave someone else? Because would not that make you guilty of the exact same thing? How would it solve anything? Because if you've got the ability to beat the crap out of someone in the exact same manner they did it to someone else, do you really deserve to be left alone? How can we trust you with that kind of power and ability? This is the paradox of justice. Anytime you look at someone else doing something to someone else and say you know better, and then taking it upon yourself to enact justice upon that person, you are becoming self-righteous. You are making the assumption that you have all the answers. Yes, there are some people that are just stupid and don't get common sense sort of things. But there are some people who are really intelligent and know what they're doing and choose to do it anyway. They know that what they're doing is wrong, but they continue to do it. Most serial killers are actually extremely intelligent. They know exactly what they are doing. They know the whole ins and outs of moral justice. They know it so well that they've tried to break the rules and get other people to think by breaking the rules. I am not saying that I think serial killers are good or right in what they do. They have mental issues, yes, but they are intelligent. Doing the same thing to to them that they've done to others probably won't teach them much. I don't think that giving someone a taste of their own medicine is justice. Because if someone is angry enough and has enough anger in their life to just want to beat people who are a different color or something, returning their favor by beating them to a pulp is just going to make them angrier. Someone who is abusive has likely been abused. So to continue to abuse them and think that that's going to teach them a lesson and give justice? You're wrong. It's not going to. Is their continuing of the train of abuse right? No. But neither is our righteous anger to go and beat them and abuse them. It gets humanity nowhere. I don't really know if this was a rant worth making, to be honest. So many people have so many different views about justice, and like we said, this is a cliche topic which people have already sort of passed off in their life, and justice is so tied in with your personal beliefs and faiths that I don't know if any of us will try to expand our thinking or change our thinking at all when we talk about this. But I am someone who absolutely hates and cannot stand injustice. And from what I have observed, when people commit injustices, they do deserve some sort of reprimanding. But if they receive a reprimanding that is very similar to the treatment they have given to other people to deserve that reprimanding, it doesn't do anything. It just continues the cycle of mistreatment of human beings. Killing someone who has killed another person simply kills another human being. Sure, it takes the killer off this earth, but there will be a whole bunch of other killers to line up behind them. I fully believe in sticking up for people who cannot speak up or stick up for themselves. And I fully believe that self-defense is a very good thing to learn. But I do not think that completely obliterating and disfiguring and mutilating your opponent is self-defense. I think I'll stop there and we'll continue this discussion in the comments. And now it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show, Hero of the Week! Our Hero of the Week this week is out to a YouTube user named QHR Report. If you guys remember last week we talked about the guy who's rebuilding the Titanic in Australia, and we discussed all sorts of different ways on how that was generally not a good thing. But QHR Report made a very good point pertaining to money with this comment. Well, it's better that he spent it because the money will move around instead of sitting in his bank account. Also, high prices for the rich passengers again gets the cash out of their bank accounts and gets it moving around. We really need more projects that get the rich people to spend more and hoard less. I will admit that that way of thinking never entered my mind. I never thought about it in the respect that, yeah, that's probably a good thing to get that money circulating. It's interesting that my first thought went to greed and thinking that he was going to be spending money on a boat. It's a very, very interesting perspective, and I honestly probably never would have thought of it that way. Congratulations, QHR Report. You are the Hero of the Week this week. And now for today's... Wait! So here's the deal. I've decided to not do shoutout anymore. Like, not at all. Because the more I think about it, it's like it's just telling people to comment just for the sake of getting a comment on there and on the video, and it might not even be really anything relevant or valuable. I don't want to be forcing people or making people think that they have to comment. The main intention of this show is to get us all to think clearer, think straighter, and expand our thinking and just grow generally. And I don't think you can grow when you're just spewing words that you don't even really think about what you're saying. So from now on, if you'd like to comment, comment. But if you wouldn't like to comment, don't comment. That being said, I still think the Would You Rathers are a really fun thing, so we're still gonna do those. Would you rather have eyes on your elbows or have ears on your kneecaps? And of course, random faces, if there's one you'd like to see me do, make sure to just leave it in the comments or wherever you feel like leaving it. You'd probably want to put it somewhere where I can see it though, because otherwise I'll never do it. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I got to say for today and the rest of this week. I'm Isaac Oley, and I'm thanking you for joining me once again on Rant. Peace in.
Comment and subscribe, comment and subscribe, comment and subscribe, and maybe favorite too.